So you have a new puppy or a new kitten and you need to take them to the vet for the first time, but what should you expect when you get there? Let's investigate. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Holmes and welcome to another episode of Pet Doc Sherlock, where I help people solve the mysteries of pets. And today we're doing a what to expect when you go to the vet video, specifically about a new puppy or kitten. And this can be a very kind of nerve-wracking visit for both you and your pet because you've just gotten a new pet, you don't know much about them, and you hope that they're healthy, they look healthy, but you're not the expert. Meanwhile, your new puppy or kitten just had their world flipped upside down by coming from one place into your home, and they don't know what's up or down. So of course they're going to be a little freaked out when they go to the vet too, because all of a sudden they're in a completely new environment where people are poking and prodding them all over. So what's going to happen in that first visit? Well, one of the first things that will happen is a veterinary assistant will get your dog or cat's weight. Weight is a very important thing for us to track each and every visit to make sure they're growing appropriately, make sure they're not gaining too much, or if they're gaining too little, why that might be. Next, we will likely do a thorough physical exam from nose to tail. We need to check those eyes, make sure there's no eye infection. Same with the ears, check for an ear infection. Look inside the mouth, make sure the bite is nice and even. We don't have any dental issues. We don't have a cleft palate. Then we'll feel along the neck for lymph nodes, make sure there's none that are swollen. We'll listen to the chest to listen for a heart murmur, which is an abnormal heart sound indicating a congenital heart problem. We'll feel all the joints, make sure they bend as they're supposed to, all the legs are pointed in the right way, we're not too bow-legged, knock-kneed, anything along those lines. We'll look thoroughly through the fur and the skin, look for fleas, look for skin infections, check for hernias. And if your dog or cat is a male, we'll see if both of their testicles are present, because sometimes only one drops, and that's called a cryptorchid, which is an entirely different discussion, but that can happen. After we do the physical exam and make sure that they look healthy on the outside and sound healthy on the inside, we'll likely talk to you about some tests that we need to run, one of which is a fecal exam or an intestinal parasite screening. This is where we get a stool sample from your dog or kitten, and we take a look at it under the microscope to see if we find eggs of certain intestinal parasites, or worms. If you miss that, we need a fecal sample from your puppy or kitten, which means it's awesome if you can bring one into us. Otherwise, we have to go in and get one with something called a fecal loop, which is safe, though not enjoyable for the vet or the animal. And so if you can bring in one, it reduces the stress for everybody. What we will commonly find in puppies and kittens are hookworms and roundworms. And these are pretty easy to get rid of. They're not going to cause a big issue as long as we get rid of them quickly and they don't have a lot of them. And so if we find roundworm or hookworm eggs on the fecal, don't be too surprised. We'll treat with a dewormer. We'll check them again the next time they come in. That being said, if the fecal's negative, we're still going to treat them with a dewormer, because just because there's no eggs on the fecal doesn't mean that they don't have a few worms in their intestines. And that's because a few worms are only going to produce a few eggs, and the sample size that we're looking at is really small, so we could miss them. For your kittens, we're likely going to talk to you about a test called a feline snap test. What we're looking for is evidence of feline immunodeficiency virus, FIV. It's like HIV in people. It makes their immune system terrible. Or feline leukemia virus, FELV. FELV is a little more complicated and can cause cancer in cats and can dramatically reduce their life expectancy. They're not super common viruses. Typically, the mother cat has to have one of them to pass it down to one of the kittens. And if your kitten is young enough and we test them and they pop positive on the test, we may say, do you have any other cats at home? If not, let's do this test again in a few months and see if it's still positive. Because there's the chance that the mother cat has it and she gave the kittens some evidence of that virus, but they don't actually have the virus themselves. So now we've done an exam, we've gotten their weight, we've gotten a fecal sample or done the snap test on the kittens. If everything looks great and they look healthy, we'll now talk to you about vaccines. I'm not going to discuss all the vaccines here, that would be a really long video, but depending on the age of your puppy or kitten and where you live, your veterinarian will talk to you about which vaccines make sense for that visit. And then they're going to say we need to booster that vaccine in 2 to 4 weeks. Some people just say 3 because that's in the middle. But in 2 to 4 weeks, you'll be back for your next visit. And you'll do that for several visits in a row until your puppy or kitten is 16 weeks of age or older. So that's a lot of information. You're also going to be talking to your vet about what diet you should feed them and what toys to play with them and how to manage their teething, etc. And then your vet will probably ask, hey, are you planning on getting them neutered or spayed in the future? And that just helps kind of set up expectations and also set up a schedule for when that can happen. And then finally, your vet will talk to you about any flea prevention or heartworm prevention that you may need for your area. In the United States in general, all dogs and cats should be on something for fleas and heartworms. Tick prevention may be regionally specific, although ticks are starting to spread throughout the country. I hope this was helpful to at least set up your expectations for that first visit for your puppy or your kitten. You at least now know what's coming down the road. And until next time, remember to keep your pets happy and healthy.